Hello, back again on the Top Recap channel. This time I will tell a movie entitled Rebel Ridge. Let's get straight into the storyline. The story begins by showing a black man named Terry Richmond cycling to the courthouse. However, he is suddenly hit by a police car. Then, the two policemen, Marston and Steve, get out of the car and point a gun at Terry. Apparently, they suspected Terry of being a criminal.
Lit him up, he tore ass.
You tase him?
Nope.
It's not too late. You want to get tased?
Although Terry was convinced he had done nothing wrong, the two policemen wouldn't listen. In fact, they had to handcuff him and search all his belongings. Here, Marston and Steve found a large amount of money wrapped in plastic, so they suspected it resulted from an illegal transaction. Terry explained that the money was legal and would be used to bail out his cousin, who was being transferred to prison. However, the two policemen still took the money. If Terry wanted to take it back, he had to be able to prove that the money was completely legal.
Now, you're pretty banged up. You need us to call you an ambulance?
No.
All right, you're free to go.
Reluctantly, Terry had to continue his journey to the courthouse with only the confiscation letter from the police. At this place, he met an officer named Elliot, who was guarding the Redemption Administration room. Then, Terry explained that the ransom money to release his cousin had been confiscated by the police for no apparent reason. However, Elliot could not do anything as he was just an ordinary officer. Since his working hours were over, Elliot prepared to go home, leaving a confused Terry behind.
How can I get him out if they took all my money?
I'm Summer.
Fortunately, an officer named Summer was willing to listen to his complaints while buying coffee. Summer explained to Terry that the money seized by the police was considered a civil asset forfeiture, so it would be difficult for him to get the money back. Moreover, there are many cases where the confiscated money became the property of the police because the owner could not prove its legality. However, all Summer could do was monitor Terry's cousin for any important information while Terry was looking for new funds to bail out his cousin. Here, Terry was amazed by Summer, who seemed smart and sincere about helping him. Apparently, this officer of the court had already earned a doctorate in law at the age of 18. She also had a similar experience with Terry, so she wanted to help him because she felt the same way.
And I know what that's like.
I appreciate it.
After leaving the court, Terry borrowed money from a Chinese businessman whom he referred to as Mr. Liu. Mr. Liu was a restaurant owner who also donated to Terry. After getting the loan from Mr. Liu, Terry chose to spend the night in the forest because he didn't have money to stay in a hotel. From the forest, he checked the location of the Shelby Spring police station where the corrupt cops who had taken his money worked. The next morning, Terry decided to go to the police station and report to a police officer named Jessica. Jessica, surprised by the report, went straight to Steve. Hearing this, Steve accused Terry of making a false report and told him to leave.
You're gonna need to leave.
It's a charge for being rammed off the road.
Later, a police captain came to calm the situation. He was Captain Sandy. Sandy then explained that Terry was guilty of running away from the police, thus making everyone suspicious of him.
There is no doubt in my mind that you are the subject of a legal interdiction. You can fuck right
I
off.
would love to, sir, just as soon as I get my money back.
Not wanting it to get any longer, Terry made an offer to let the police take most of his money, as long as he could take $10,000 as a down payment to bail out his cousin. Hearing this, Sandy accepted his offer.
You can see your cousin, and we'll put this to bed. Now fuck off.
Thank you.
The next day, Terry returned to the police station. However, instead of meeting his cousin, Sandy deliberately played Terry and said that his cousin had been transferred somewhere on a court bus. Annoyed, Terry immediately left on his bicycle to catch up with the bus. By traveling through the forest as a shortcut, Terry managed to catch up with his cousin, who was in the car, and promised to release him soon.
What you doing, man?
Getting you out!
Nigga, this a jailbreak?
I'm posting bail!
However, when Terry confirmed to Mr. Liu about the money loan, it turned out that the police had searched Mr. Liu's place because Sandy had tracked his location. As a result, Terry had no money at all to bail out his cousin.
Sir, it's urgent. I wouldn't ask if I didn't need it.
Took my safe. You implicated my business in a statement to the Shelby Spring PD.
Feeling troubled, Terry desperately went back to see Summer in court. Unfortunately, even though Terry had explained his situation of being played by the police, Summer still couldn't help much. Summer then said that the detention of Terry's cousin was unreasonable, as he had only committed a minor criminal offense. Besides, Summer strongly suspected that this was a scandal planned by corrupt people. All Summer could do for Terry was to provide the court files while Terry handed over the ransom money. On the other hand, these corrupt policemen were checking Terry's background. Unexpectedly, the calm and patient man was a former Marine trainer quite prominent in the United States military. Not long after, Terry came to the police station again.
But did not himself serve overseas.
So no combat experience.
None.
My heart damn near skipped a beat.
Having established that Terry had never been directly involved in the war, Steve and Sandy were finally brave enough to confront Terry. Sandy bravely approached Terry and explained that he was deeply offended by Terry's offering of a bribe by sharing the money he had confiscated. According to him, he felt that his identity as a police chief had been humiliated in front of his subordinates. In fact, Sandy had already made a decision to never help Terry free his cousin.
I'm running out of lettuce. That's the restaurant owner you put out of business this morning. Let's not do that.
Very cautiously, Terry walked into the police station while taking Sandy as a hostage.
He's got good form. If anyone's getting anyone killed, it's him.
Inside the police station, Terry immediately ordered Jessica to handcuff Sandy and Steve, then opened the storage room, which turned out to contain various military weapons and all other confiscated items.
Count out 10K.
After taking some of his money for his cousin's redemption down payment, Terry then asked Jessica to pretend to handcuff him and take him to the car so that the men still standing guard outside would not shoot him.
Chief says back to work. This man is a veteran going through something difficult.
Jessica here shows a little sympathy for Terry. She takes him to the middle of a deserted road, leaving Terry to continue his journey alone. The former Marine continued his journey on his bicycle to the court office. Once at the court office, he nervously met Summer and gave her the ransom money. While he was waiting for his cousin's redemption letter, it turned out that the police had already arrived at the courthouse. Being cornered, Terry could only surrender while raising his hands. Terry woke up in a rundown warehouse with medical supervision and a policeman. After it was confirmed that Terry was okay, Terry was invited to get into a car, and Sandy would drive him to a hospital because his cousin was there. While in the car, Sandy explained that all the items Terry had seen in the warehouse were confiscated items that legally belonged to the police, and the police would use them for their personal use.
What you saw in that cage was our survival. Only we gotta find our own money. We gotta turn a profit.
After arriving at the hospital, Sandy returned Terry's money and let him go. After that, Sandy explained that Terry's cousin had actually just been attacked by a prison gangster and had to be hospitalized.
Your cousin is being medevaced here as we speak. He was attacked, just out of processing. Stabbed up pretty good.
Sandy also offered peace, as he didn't want to deal with the former Marine. Here, he gives Terry a chance to leave the city as soon as possible and never return. In fact, he would even give Terry a car so that he could leave faster. Hearing that, Terry agreed to the offer and went to see his cousin, who was already in intensive care. Unfortunately, according to the hospital, Terry's cousin was already in critical condition. The chances of survival were very low, so Terry was given one last chance to remember his cousin before his cousin breathed his last. Terry couldn't help but cry, as his cousin was very important and the only person who always cared about him. After letting go of his cousin, Terry was picked up by Summer, who drove him away. However, during the journey, the police were still stalking him. While in the car, Summer explained that the cousin's detention was strongly suspected to have been planned, and Terry should have exposed the scandal. However, Terry, who had already lost his cousin, decided not to expose the scandal, as it was already too late, and the only best option now was to accept Sandy's peace offer. After getting out of the city, Terry and Summer parted ways while thanking each other for help.
Appreciate you giving us shit.
I appreciate your appreciation.
Terry then headed to the car dealer to pick up the car Sandy had given him. In the middle of the night, Summer woke up shocked to find that an intruder had secretly injected her with an illegal drug, making her body instantly weak. Knowing that Summer desperately called Terry for help.
Terry.
Terry immediately went to Summer's house.
Summer!
And after searching the entire house, he found Summer alive. When Terry suggested that she go to the hospital, Summer refused because she was under surveillance. This is because she has a history of being a drug addict. If she is caught positive again, then she will be in danger of not being able to get custody of the child that she is currently fighting for. Moreover, her ex-husband is more established and capable of caring for the child, so she won't let that happen. Here, Summer recounts her past when she was divorced by her husband, who took her child away unilaterally, alleging that Summer was an irresponsible mother. Hearing this, Terry offered to help, although Summer refused and thanked him for listening to her sad story.
You should go.
Sure you're okay?
Show up to work like nothing happened.
Summer returned to work as usual. However, before working, Summer was required to take a urine test to ensure she was drug-free. Despite pleading and negotiating, Summer finally relented, resigned to accepting her fate. She felt certain that she would fail to get custody because of the drugs injected by a mysterious person. Meanwhile, Terry, who was about to leave town, was reunited with policeman Steve, who was on guard. Terry was immediately ordered to stop, even though he argued that he was returning to town to meet Summer. However, Steve said that Terry had made a big mistake in returning to town, even though he had been allowed to leave. Feeling superior, and because Terry was alone, Steve immediately attacked him. Terry was forced to leave his car under the bridge and started walking while contacting Summer.
You should stay off the phone. I was coming to you.
The court officer had just learned that Elliot and most of the employees in her office had collaborated with the police. Finally, she decided to meet with Terry. It didn't take long for Summer to arrive at the Chinese restaurant owned by Mr. Liu, an acquaintance of Terry's. There, she was invited by one of Mr. Liu's men to the back room, where Terry was being treated.
Thank you for your service, sir.
After being treated, Terry and Summer had a one-on-one talk. Terry asked for an explanation as to why the police did not mobilize troops to arrest him. Here, Summer surmised that the police deliberately hid this case so it would not be heard outside the city. That way, they could continue doing their dirty work, including framing people and taking away their money, just like they did to Terry. Hearing Summer's explanation, Terry thought the only clue to find out was through the recordings still in the court. Terry assured Summer that he was now determined to fight the police, especially after the death of his cousin, which made him no longer afraid of loss.
What do you want me to say? That you're on the right path?
The two of them then rushed to see Elliot. Elliot could not answer Summer's questions regarding his involvement with the police, and asked Summer and Terry to stop all this. Before leaving, Summer had said something about children and family, and what if this kind of thing happened to Elliot's family. However, just as Summer and Terry were about to leave, Elliot suddenly hinted at evidence that could lead to the police being charged with corruption and other crimes.
Settlement, it put pressure on the police, oversight. Turn them upside down.
Without thinking, Terry went straight to the house of the prosecutor who kept the evidence. When interrogated, the prosecutor confessed that he actually wanted to protect Summer and mourn the death of Terry's cousin. He then explained that there was once a case where a bishop fought the police but died under unnatural circumstances. At that time, the economic condition in the city of Shelby Spring was very poor, which affected the finances of the police department. In addition, they were incompetent and did not deserve a large budget.
And forfeitures this first month. He got you in on it. Me and every other taxpayer.
This led to police officers looking for money through illegal means like Terry. The police would manipulate any crime that occurred in the city to only be a case in the inner city so that they would still monitor it to avoid scandalous leaks. Knowing this, Summer realized that the only recorded evidence was in the computer storage and CCTV footage in the court.
What'd they do to him?
Enough to get us sued.
You seen it?
No.
However, when they finished the interrogation, it turned out that the prosecutor had taken a drug that caused him to almost die. Suddenly, they both immediately called the police to prevent his death.
And it's empty.
Oh, shit.
Hey, how many did you take?
After that, Terry and Summer left immediately. After that, Summer decided to join Terry's journey to uncover justice. They set off for the warehouse under the courthouse. And when the two of them went through the warehouse carefully, it turned out that there were already policemen who would burn the room. After putting out the fire, they both started looking for the hard drive that held the evidence of the police's crimes. Although the hard drive was damaged, Summer luckily found an SD card that held CCTV footage containing evidence of Terry's cousin's suspicious death. They immediately rushed out the same way and set the room on fire again so no one would be suspicious. However, before they made it out, Summer suddenly remembered that she had to take her urine test results before her child's custody was revoked. Unfortunately, when she got there, she was spotted by the police. As a result, she was arrested and dragged into a car. Terry, who saw it, anxiously followed the vehicle carrying Summer. Once there, he immediately rammed the car belonging to a policeman named McGill and then paralyzed him. After that, Terry interrogated McGill about Summer's whereabouts. Feeling scared, McGill called his other police friend. Terry immediately took over the conversation and started negotiating, where he would give the SD card as long as the police would release Summer. Hearing that, the police told him to exchange at Rebel Ridge.
Okay then, you know Rebel Ridge?
Think I'm stupid?
No, I think you're smart.
The next morning, the police were already preparing in front of Rebel Ridge with full weapons while carrying Summer, who was detained in the back of the car. Then, a police car appeared, which was allegedly driven by Terry. Meanwhile, Terry calls Sandy, who is in the office with Jessica, and explains that he hasn't been brutalized since quitting the military, but this time, he has decided to eradicate all corrupt cops, including Sandy. Terry then told Sandy to get ready, as he was much more powerful and dangerous than the corrupt cops thought.
Fire last night.
Stand by.
Stand by. Bueno. What if we just walk away?
Now you're starting to talk.
But then I was like, nah. That also takes both sides.
When Marston approached the police car that approached them, Terry was not there. All they found was McGill with his mouth duct taped. They immediately went to the police station, believing Terry must have been there. On the other hand, Terry hit the gas of his car until it broke the wall of the police station. And when Sandy got into the safe, Terry immediately attacked him. Terry then asked Jessica, who turned out to be Summer's friend, to help Summer, who was in the police car. In addition, Terry left Jessica the SD card. Terry threatened to burn all the confiscated money if Sandy and the others did not release Summer immediately. Terry then took all the weapons in the warehouse to prepare himself against the police who had surrounded the office. Unfortunately, here Jessica sided with the corrupt police. She pointed a gun at Terry and told him to surrender.
I'll put 2 rounds in your head if you move an inch. We'll sort this out somewhere safe. Nobody dies today. 105. Exiting the station with suspect.
In 4, hold fire.
Steve then destroys the SD card Jessica handed over. He explains that Summer's condition is very bad because the police deliberately inject a very excessive dose of illegal drugs. Sensing that Terry's resistance was futile, Steve prepared to shoot him.
At least it'll be peaceful.
However, at the same time, Marston intercepted Steve and pulled a gun on him as it was not in their plans. Not long after, Sandy appeared. As Sandy calmed the situation, Jessica secretly allowed Terry to escape. Terry immediately ran for his weapon bag, and the shootout began.
Protect his arm!
While surviving the attack, Marston, who was now helping Terry, explained that Terry could help Summer with the medical kit on the car's dashboard. He then switches on the camera installed in the vehicle to be recorded as evidence to frame the corrupt cops. After that, Terry starts acting brutally and shows who he really is. Long story short, Terry finally manages to save Summer and record Sandy trying to shoot him. Terry then took the car back to Marston to ask how to cure Summer with the medicine there. After that, Terry invited Marston to go with him.
Rod, you hear me? Go, go, go!
Sandy, who didn't want Terry to get away with it, immediately ordered all the police there to chase him before the footage got out.
Hop in.
Unfortunately, the tire of the car used by Terry was punctured due to being shot, so they could be overtaken by the police. Finally, the three of them decided to break through the police car line that blocked the road.
Fuck him. He'll save my trouble.
But before that happened, Jessica appeared to help Terry. Thanks to her help, Terry finally made it to the hospital to save Summer, who was already critical. He then opened the back trunk of the car that contained the recorded evidence of Sandy and his squad's crimes to send them all to jail.